time. We'd like to get a couple of board meetings. They're here now, John?
Yep.
Okay. So,
What always happens?
Rewind the tape. Gentlemen, hi, folks. Come right up here, please.
I don't want to. How are you? How you doing?
So much. Pretty good. Little limited by cable link, so go ahead and take that seat right there if you would.
All right.
So the cable right down the floor. Go ahead and plug in. See if you
You can tap into this one. Do you want?
Is that cool?
Yeah.
Well, that'd be a lot easier.
Yeah, that works.
you know, why don't I just, we're going to open this meeting up, right? Patty?
Yeah, already on.
So, is it already on?
Yeah.
So we'll call a meeting to order for February 10th at 3 p.m. and we're going to turn it over at this time to Alliance Energies to put a presentation on for us, and I'm going to step back into the call. Gentlemen, you can introduce yourselves. And
I think Joe just took the opportunity to run to the restroom. But I'm Greg Charland. I'm the Regional Director of Operations for Alliance Energy. And we got a quick presentation here to talk about our project and current status of our project and what we hope to do with it. So I'm actually going to let Joe do the presentation here. So let me see if I can't get the screen working. Let's see. Yeah, let me just, he's got quite a few things open here. I'm actually just getting rid of that. Yeah.
Well, we appreciate you coming today.
I hope it's beneficial.
So nobody.
All right.
Be our official cameraman, Mark.
Yeah. Should be under. Okay. I'll take care of it. Switch it over. I just did a quick introduction. You should introduce yourself. I thought about it. All right. Just give me a second, folks. Let me run this through and open it up. I actually thought about opening this up while I was still out in the car to give it a chance to boot up, because unpredictable. Well, while that is opening, and I get that to synchronize, let me introduce myself. My name is Joe Klimaszewski. I'm a VP of Operations and New Development for Alliance Energy. Alliance Energy is the company that owns the Ogdensburg power plant. A lot of folks here today are. Some of you I know, some of you I haven't met yet. But what I'm here today to talk about is the repowering project and our plans for this cogen, as you guys call it. And we'll talk about combined cycle and cogeneration and what it does and where it went and where we are today and where we want to take it. So I have a brief presentation that I prepared. I'll walk through it. I'm not going to read it to you. I also have a 2-page summary that I have available for those of you that are interested in more information. But if we could just get someone to make a list of people that are interested, I can distribute that afterwards. I didn't want to make it too cumbersome here today. But for the most part, I wanted to come up, make myself available for questions, because I know there have got to be tons of questions. And I'll give it to you straight. I'll give you the good, I'll give you the bad, and where we are today. And hopefully, coming out of this and the work the city's been helping us with, and in our conversations with the state, we will be able to go to tomorrow. And you'll understand more as we get through this. So, give me a sec, and I'll see if I can sync this up.
Are you in any open communication with Albany at this point in time?
Yes.
Are they listening?
Good question. Let's see if this works. Look at that.
There we go.
Okay. Let's talk a little bit about companies. So everybody understands, I know a lot of people have talked about Alliance Energy this and Site Energy that and all this other stuff. The assets, the project, the contracts with the state, St. Lawrence Gas, all of that are with a company called Ag Energy, AG Energy. That is a limited partnership that was established to own the plant. Alliance Energy is a company that owns Ag Energy. Okay? This is a little bit about Alliance. Again, I'm going to put this stuff up here and sort of talk around it. Hopefully, focusing on the information that's important to you folks today. Greg is our Regional Director of Operations. He runs, among other things, the Ogdensburg Power Plant. The Ogdensburg Power Plant today supplies steam to OMH. In turn, today, OMH supplies steam to docks, the Ogdensburg Correctional Facility, among other things, among their own loads. In addition to that, it's the prison. Greg has been with the project since 1997. My role within Alliance is as VP of Operations and New Development Projects. I actually started out with Ogdensburg in '93 when it was a greenfield plant, before it was ever built. So, Greg is born and raised here. I moved here in '93 with my family and raised my family here. So we understand, at least from our perspective, the importance of this project to the community and what it means for jobs, taxes, economic support, as well as the associated facilities, OMH, docks, and as we go forward, local suppliers, vendors, things like that. This is how it started out life. CCCHP, combined cycle, combined heat and power. When Ogdensburg was built and went commercial in 1994, it had 2 jet engines that were coupled up to electric generators. Those jet engines ran on natural gas or low sulfur diesel. It was built to supply electricity under a long-term power purchase agreement, power contract, with Niagara Mohawk. In order to enter into that contract, certain criteria had to be met. One criteria was that the plant had to be highly efficient. The second criteria was that it also had to replace an existing, antiquated fossil fuel system. Those were 2 federal requirements that the plant had to meet. It met the efficiency and exceeded it, and in terms of the replacement, it actually replaced the old boiler house at OMH. The OMH boiler house House, just so everyone understands, supplies a distribution loop that looks much like a wagon wheel. Okay? There are spurs that come out from the old boiler house that run through underground trunks that supply both the existing facilities for OMH, as well as there's a spur that runs over to the old OMH facilities that is now the Ogdensburg Correctional Facility. Okay, that's how that works. When this plant went commercial, the boiler house was shut down. Steam was supplied to an interconnection point immediately inside the boiler house, and then the state takes care and custody of that steam at that point and does whatever it needs to with it. At the same time, we get water back. About 80% of the steam we supply comes back to us in the form of water. Okay, interconnected with the grid. Permits still exist today. The site, the facility is still a registered power plant in New York State today. And then it talks about a little bit about NYSERDA Zone E that has to do with power sales. And then the advantages of being in this location in terms of the repowering effort. So let me take it in 1998, because I don't think we go there. In 1998, the lead up to that period of time, there was a lot of discussion at Albany about the possibility of Niagara Mohawk going bankrupt as a result of these excessively high cost, what were called QF, or qualifying facility contracts. So as a function of that, the power purchase agreement for Ogdensburg was terminated and bought out. The long-term gas supply that supplied the facility to make that power was also canceled and terminated. Had to pay to get out of that. The only thing that was left at the end of the whole process was the obligation to supply the steam, the corresponding lease that goes with it, the site agreement, okay? That is a reciprocal relationship. 100% of the steam in exchange for a long-term lease on the land. The total land area that the plant occupies is about 3.5 acres. Okay? There are a few outbuildings. We've got a little piece of property down at the river. But we don't own any of the property, just the improvements on it. Okay, that's going to be key. In 1998, the price for natural gas was just under $2 per unit. So gas would be supplied from the market to the plant. The plant would burn that gas in auxiliary boilers. There's a couple of small boilers at the plant to make the steam to supply OMH. And when the price was right in this new deregulated marketplace, we would run the main plant to generate electricity to generate revenue for the plant. Okay. From 1998 to 2005, that's what this plant did. We ran about 1,000 hours a year, 1,200 hours a year. Just so you know, there's just under 9,000 hours in a year, so you don't have to do the math. It's 8760. So about 1/8 to 1/7 of the time, we would actually run the main plant. When the main plant runs, it supplies the steam needed for OMH, and it's supplied at a very low cost. However, the rest of the time, you run these boilers, just like everybody else does that runs a business, and that's just the cost of operation. 2005, I can tell you that our predecessors in interest were scheduled to close and tear down the Ogdensburg power plant. And in May, June of 2005, Alliance Energy stepped in and said, we'll take the risk, we'll buy the plant and some others that were available from the same owner, and we'll see what we can do to repower it. We then transitioned from the owners at the time to Alliance. Power generation was a new venture for Alliance in 2005. Prior to that point, their primary focus was oil and gas on the North Slope of Alaska, Ecuador, and other places in the world. This is our first venture into power gen. So with this plant, the goal at the time was, right out of the gate, get rid of the natural gas that makes it so cumbersome. Get rid of the liquid fuel, the diesel fuel, because it's stupidly high in price. And incorporate biodiesel into the project. That's what we set out to do. That was the first presentation that I did for the city in probably 06. In that time frame, I don't mean to have my back to you, but okay. In that time frame, we received permission from the state to do the testing on the gas turbines. We also permitted these auxiliary boilers to burn up to 100% biodiesel, and we used about 250,000 gallons to serve the steam load. So they are permitted. They were the first commercial boilers in New York State to do so. What we learned about the gas turbines was that the type of gas turbines installed at this plant were too susceptible to contamination damage in fuel supply. Biodiesel would not work. So we owned the Messina plant at the same time. We shifted our biodiesel research efforts from here to Messina. And we started looking at other options for Ogdensburg. That took us through October of 07. Important thing to note, natural gas in 98, $2. Natural gas in 05, 06, $12. The cost for maintaining that 3 acres of land, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt, 4 acres of land. Lease, 25-year lease, 4 acres of land, $4 million plus per year. In 2007, in order to maintain the solvency of the project and have enough cash available while we pursued the redevelopment efforts to continue to support the steam load, we sold the gas turbines. Okay? You might have seen them going up the road. That money is just about exhausted now, or a little bit more than what they were worth. We continue to pay that $4 million or so a year. Anybody want to volunteer to lease 4 acres of land in the North Country for $4 million a year? I don't think so. Okay, why would we do this? Art has asked me this question only about 150,000 times. Why would we do this? Because we believe in this plant. We believe in its location. We believe in renewable energy. This is the focus of our company. We want to get this off the ground. We have a new plan, relatively new. I think I did this presentation in 07. Our intention is to, now with the gas turbines removed, put in a new combustion system that will use locally supplied biomass materials, call it green wood for the sake of discussion. There are other fuel options that you'll see. Burn that wood to produce the steam that will allow us to run the steam turbine component of this plant to produce, instead of 80 megawatts of electricity, about 25, 26. Okay, so that's where we're at. The advantages of the project: accelerated time to market, the permits are already in place, there's very little additional work that needs to be done. Trying to site a new power plant in New York today is very challenging. The law that allowed new power plants to be sited and streamlined that no longer exists, having been on the books since 02, 03, something like that. It's called the Article 10 siting law. So this plant exists. We can get this done in about 12 to 15 months from the time we issue the purchase orders for the EPC contractor, engineering, procurement, and construction. Relatively low cost compared to what a new plant costs, and we can afford to sell the power directly into the marketplace. Doesn't have to be a long-term contract. We would prefer that, but the plant will work financially by selling power directly, even at today's rates. This gets into some of the detail on the technology. Again, if you're interested, I can talk about that more later. I'm assuming you don't need more information right now than this. Okay, good. So a little bit on the right-hand side, the fuel diversity. We try to come up with a technology, and we looked at a half a dozen different technologies, that would allow us to maximize the availability of locally supplied fuel. Folks, this isn't altruism, okay? The closer it comes from, the lower the cost. All right? The important thing is we're going to spend about $10 million a year on fuel. That's $10 million a year that instead of going to the fields in Alberta, Canada, for natural gas, will come directly into the North Country. Where else are you going to get wood? It's not like we're going to ship it in from New York City. All right? This is locally supplied. That's what makes Ogdensburg work. That's what makes this plant work in this location. If it was a fossil plant, this is a bad place. Here's the hitch. We have been in discussions, fiery and otherwise, litigation, you name it, with the Office of Mental Health for, God, it seems like it's been since 2000, 2001 that we've been doing this. Most recently, since about the third day after Alliance took over this project, was the first communication we had with OMH, telling them this is not sustainable. We need to restructure this contract. And basically we have been met with, may I use your word, stonewalling. Okay? There has been no measurable progress or response from the state toward getting to an end that would be a win-win for everyone. Again, I'm at a point now, we're at a point company-wide, that we have to make a decision. And without the cooperation of OMH and the state, this project will not work. Let me tell you why. I'm actually going to retouch it here, so I'm okay. We need about 15 to 17 more acres of land to support the woodyard. We need direct access to Route 37 so that the trucks coming in and out of the woodyard can come in and dump the material. The material can be sorted, shipped if we're going to do it on site, or sorted into base materials to blend the heat content, then transported over to the plant site where it's fed into the combustion chamber to produce steam. So what we're looking for is the land between Route 37 and the plant, between Entrance Avenue and about halfway to Children and Youth. The old tree line, there was a behind the barns, okay? That's the area we're looking at. In addition to that, we have considered options for the land across 37. That's OBPA land, where the railroad spur comes in. At this point, it is far more cost-effective and works for the project at this level to put the fuel yard adjacent to the plant. Okay? We'll talk a little bit about other plans later. I think it's important to stay focused on this. I've got a drawing of this. This talks a little bit about what would need to happen with the state. Now, I know that there's been news that has come out in the last month or so about Ogdensburg Correctional Facility. I can tell you that OCF represents about 40% of the total steam that we produce, so our operating costs would go down by about 40% to continue flowing steam to the host. So what? All right? So I'm moving $2.5 million a year instead of $4? So what? Why would I do that? It's foolish. We need to restructure the contract in order to make the project viable going forward. What we are proposing to the state that we do is simply extend the existing contract, which expires in 2019. Extend it by 10 years. And then allow the state to pay for the steam that they receive the equivalent in the cost of production. We don't want that to be a profit center for this project. It doesn't have to be that. But we can't afford to continue to subsidize the state. So it has to be a wash. And we're willing to back up those numbers. If we're running the aux boilers, it's easy to calculate what the cost is to produce that steam. It's about $4 million a year. Take $4 million divided by the steam amount that they take. That's the rate that they pay per 1,000 pounds of steam supply. It's that straightforward. It's no more complicated than that. As we go forward, however we produce that steam is irrelevant. That's the cost to the state. If we can get this off the ground and be successful and do it cheaper, great, we win. But at the same time, everybody wins. Because the state continues to get very low-cost steam for an extended period of time. That allows them to explore the option, is the best I can say, of other things with OCF. I don't know what they would do with that. But it gives them cost options. It gives them variability. Here's the key. Right here. If Ogdensburg goes away, and let's assume it lasts till the end of the contract. Let's assume that we choose to continue to pay or borrow money to produce that steam through 2019. Highly unlikely outcome. But let's assume that's the case. The same 10-year period of time, what is the state going to have to pay based on today's rates? To rebuild the infrastructure to produce the steam because their boilers are gone. They do not exist anymore. And pay for their fuel, and pay an O&M contractor to come in and run that plant, because I don't know that they would gear up their old staff again. That's not what they're in the business to do, is what I've been told. They're in the business to care for clients, not to produce steam. It will cost them about $95 million over that 10-year period of time, including the CapEx, the capital costs of rebuilding their infrastructure. The difference, I captured here, the same period of time will cost them about 60% less if we supply the steam to the state at our cost. And there's a whole bunch of other provisions, and you all watch the State of the Union and everything else. I mean, renewable energy is important. I don't want to diminish the value of the project independent of OMH, but I think from the response today, a lot of people are concerned. And from what I've seen in the papers here locally, this is a big concern for the community, and this is the key to it. Now, we can get into more of it. I mean, I have to be careful not to get on the soapbox. As Art knows, I tend to do that once in a while. But it's a huge advantage.
And you said 40% of the steam goes to, so it's like...
From what we've been told, we don't meter that flow.
Both of them, not one. Both of them take 40%.
No. 100% of the steam produced by the plant goes to OMH.
Got it.
Of that 100%, about 40%, from what we've been told by OMH, about 40% goes to Fox.
Okay.
This is the plant as it exists today. Thank you, Google Earth. This is the pipe bridge that goes over to the old boiler house. That's what you're looking at here. So the auxiliary boilers are located in this corner of the plant. The rest of the plant is dormant and has been mothballed. These auxiliary boilers run one or the other. They're 200%ers. Run 24/7, 365, supplying steam to the host and receiving condensate back. Gas comes in on this side.
Can I stop you a second here?
Yes, sir.
You just said if you went out of business and you said I've had enough, we're all done. Is that correct? What I mean by that is they can't produce steam anymore. You're providing all of it?
Correct.
So you pack up and leave, we're all done. The psych center's done?
To my knowledge, they have no other way to produce that steam. There is a provision in the contract, and there are physical provisions in the piping system that would allow a trailer-mounted boiler to come in. One of our biggest concerns is we have what's called a Certificate of Public Necessity,
Right.
a CPCN. All right? There are real people here. There are real people affected by this.
Yeah.
It's not like we're going to go over there and pull the plug on damn boiler. At It's not going to happen. We can't do that.
Right.
So it would have to be done through legal channels to make sure that there's a smooth transition. But we've offered that information. We've offered to have that discussion. Give me a no. Let's plan the transition. Half dozen times in the last year. We've engaged in that with the state. We can't get a response. The city has participated in those conversations. Can't get a response. So it's the head in the sand. You know, what's going to happen? What do we have to do? Declare bankruptcy before we begin the discussion about a transition? It makes no sense. We're talking about real people. I get the impression that there are folks involved in this chain that may not understand life in the winter in the North Country. Okay? But people die when the heat goes off. It's not like you can turn these things off. And these are the things we're concerned about. If we can't make it work, okay, we can't make it work. Tell us that. That gives us an answer. That gives us a direction. But we'll plan the transition. We will not, under any circumstances, shut the boilers down without authorization to do so. Okay? We won't do that.
Who's that authorization come from?
Public Service Commission. Does that answer your question?
Joe, we got a question on that.
Yes.
Basically what it is you're not going to continue to operate that power plant at all. It's going to be shut down. You give us a direction of whether we're going to shut it down, and everything's going to go, or we want to go ahead to produce electricity for the power plant back on line. They just refuse. It's like contracting with us. They sit there and they play games. They refuse to tell you which way you're going to go because you have to make a decision. You can't keep paying more money to keep us heated.
Well, let me expand on that thought. You're exactly right. Let me expand on that for just a moment. You said, well, we will decide not to. Okay. I want to ask somebody to put a banker hat on for a moment. All right? I'm a business. I'm coming to you in a bank, and I'm going to say, I want a loan of $4 million a year in order to keep the steam flowing. Right? If I don't have the cash in my pocket, and I don't have anybody internally I can borrow from, then I have to go outside. If I go to the street and look for a loan, they're going to want the loan paid back. They're going to want some guarantee of paying the loan back. The residual asset value of this project would not support the steam load for 1 year. Won't work. Banks won't lend that money. So we will be forced to make the decision to shut the plant down. And if that's the way they're going to go, if that's the way it has to be, so be it. But take responsibility for that decision and come out and say, no. Yes, sir.
Mr. Chairman, may I? Sure. Joe, I think that this juncture, what everybody begins to ask, and I know you understand, Alliance Energy owns Ag Energy.
Correct.
When and why won't Alliance Energy continue to foot the bill to make the steam? I mean, that connection there. I think that's the state is saying it too. They're saying, well, you have no visible means of support or revenue for Ag Energy. Is Alliance Energy just going to keep footing the bill to loan money to the project to continue to make the steam? And if you're not, when are you going to pull the plug on that? And how does it, and that's what's going to happen here. Because there's no revenue, no bank in their mind would mortgage a company that has no revenue, any money. So the only thing that's buying that steam right now is
our possibility of repowering.
Right, so that would be coming from Alliance, right?
Correct.
So is Alliance on the hook if Ag Energy goes down? That's the question.
And that's more of a legal question than it is something that I can respond to here today, because that gets into bankruptcy law and state law and courts of claims actions and all that other stuff, and I, quite frankly, am not an attorney.
But that is what...
But that's exactly where we are today.
When this conversation comes to the point.
When this project can no longer find cash resources to continue to fund the steam contract, that's where we will find ourselves. Sir?
Is this an independent? Right, in other words, this unit stand by itself? So in other words, if this goes down, the overall company doesn't have to go down. It's one unit.
Correct.
So if you walk away,
it's a limited partnership. That's correct.
you leave what's on the ground and you walk away and go, and your business continues.
And again, this is obviously a legal question in the ultimate resolution, but that's certainly our understanding. I think of the projects that were built around the time that this was built were intentionally structured in just that way.
For the same reason you're talking about right now.
The contracts are by and between that individual company and the counterparty, not the upstream parent.
So then is it safe to assume then your contract you have no buyout provision or anything else?
There is no buyout provision, although we've offered to do that.
So you either have to breach the contract or, as you said, go bankrupt.
Well, let's talk a little bit about breach, okay? And please, I have to be careful here. The Court of Claims action that is pending in the New York State court system right now is about breach of contract, not us. Have you ever driven through the Psych Center and seen the windows open in the middle of the winter? Okay. We estimate, what was the number from the engineers that we hired? 25% of the steam we supply? 25 to 30% of the steam we supply is wasted. It is beyond what is necessary to support the infrastructure that the state has.
That makes another good argument for making them pay for it, become more.
Hey, you want to throw it out the window, that's your business, but don't make me pay for that. Okay? The thermostats in your buildings don't work in some of the buildings, so to regulate the temperature in the buildings, they open the windows in the middle of winter. Sir?
What is possibility Alliance can produce up to 90 megawatts of power doing this project without the state?
It is not possible without the state. We looked at those possibilities. The difficulty we have, first of all, and let me clarify, the interconnection point with Niagara Mohawk, the grid, is sized for 90 megawatts because the plant formerly produced up to 87. Okay? The remaining generation infrastructure at the plant is only 26. So you had 26 from the steam turbine, and then the rest were supplied from the 2 gas turbines that are gone. So if we put in a way to generate the steam, the most we'll get out of this is 26 megawatts. Okay? With using the existing plant.
I guess I'm saying if you repower the plant, doing,
Yeah.
and selling the power back to make a profit for Alliance without a state contract.
It's not possible without a state contract. Because without the state contract, there's no additional land. With no additional land, you're talking about building it on the OBPA land.
That's where I was
If you're going to build on the OBPA land, it's a greenfield project. So there's no leverage, there's a much longer timeline, the siting law comes into play. You can't make that happen in a short enough period of time, and we can't reuse the infrastructure that exists in a different location. If we would do that, if we would uproot what's here, we would either sell it off or move it someplace where the power is a lot more valuable than this. Sir?
It seems to me the state several years ago did an OBPA on all the property at the Psych Center, and I believe Ford bid it out. Do I remember that? I think it was before you, Wade.
It's something along those lines, yes.
But is there a possibility of buying the land from the state?
Don't know that.
Well, that was their original intent. I bet it was probably 12, 15 years ago to sell that.
Mm-hmm.
Get it back on the tax.
I remember.
And I just haven't heard anyone talk about the possibility of buying.
I haven't heard anybody talk about any possibilities at all. I can't engage in those discussions because I can't get somebody to sit on the other side of the table. Yes, ma'am.
I'd like to know who you're talking to at OMH.
Within OMH, there are a number of people within the council's office primarily, and I would have to talk to our attorneys about exactly who.
So it's only council's office that you've been talking to?
There are other physical plant individuals from the Albany office that have been involved in discussions, but nobody locally.
No, I don't mean locally. I mean in Albany, but it doesn't sound to me like you're in the right part of the agency.
Okay. attempts to engage in a discussion at every level of OMH. It's very difficult to get a response.
Well, OMH has a contract with you for another 9 years, right?
With the project, that's correct.
So I can see their position. You're going to supply the steam for the next 9 years, or you're going to walk away. And at that time, they're going to have, hopefully they've already know about this, they got a backup plan in place, which I would realize they would have. So if you do walk away from it and shut it down, I don't think OMH is sleeping at the gun here. I think they're in a position to take position, but your contract with OHF, well, what I hear you saying is you want to open that up and renegotiate the flow of $4 million here, where they pay you the $4 million for the steam that you're going to provide, which you've already gave them an additional 9 years they've got right now. So when that 9 years is over, then you're looking to go forward or a wash year on the money part.
No, an additional 10 years beyond the 9.
Right, and you want the state, though, to pay that $4 million or whatever it is.
However we want to negotiate that final deal.
Okay.
Whether every option is on the table at this point from our perspective.
So basically what you've got is attorneys talking to attorneys. So that's what.
Trying to make it.
Our goal here is to hopefully have you here today, and I've talked to Art about this. How do we help you get this plant up and going and retool it in the next year and a half to save these jobs, all these jobs, not just the correction facility, all these jobs that's interconnecting to this system. How do we do that to help you and support you? Is there any way you can tell me that? I know all about this. One thing is retooling. Can you tell the people how long it would take to retool this plant?
We estimate 12 to 15 months. From the time we issue the purchase orders and go forward with it, it's 12 to 15 months. So we already had the conversations with DEC.
So what we're looking for is a way to tell the Albany people that along with Alliance Energy, we can save the state in corrections, OMH, and whoever else is tied into this system, X amount of money.
59%.
But what happens here, the way the presentation's coming down, there's a break here after 9 years that we now will have to pay to make that amount of steam, whatever it is, we need, okay, to use. So that's a hurdle that we're looking to say, no, we want to be able to say, we have another contract in place to have steam furnished to us. And on the other hand, you're going to generate power. Hire people to generate power. Your money's going to be made on the grid. We get another contract of some type to keep these jobs here at a low-cost heating system in water and hot water. That's what we're looking to have to present to the governor or whoever these people are in Albany, as June has just said, to say, look, we can save this, and this is what's going to save the state. But under the precincts that you're presenting here today, I have a problem with the washback here on this thing because it looks like you're eventually going to say, no, you're going to pay for the steam that we create for you down the road.
Which is the production cost of $4 million.
Yeah.
Less than
Here's the quid pro quo side of this, right? Mm-hmm. Let's assume for the sake of discussion that what's on the table is, okay, if we agree to this change in the site boundaries and supporting this, you agree to continue to supply steam for free through 2019. Okay. We, in turn, agree to supply or to accept steam and pay for it at market value beginning in 2019 through 2028. Okay, pay me $95 million over the course of that 10 years, and I will be happy to give it to you for free for the next 8.
On the flip side,
you do this at a cost.
I see an advantage. Maybe I should be saying this, but I'll say it. I see it. Is an advantage here for you is to bring this up to 100 megawatts, where you can get on the grid and make some money. Sure, and create jobs.
150, 250 megawatts. The grid will support that.
Okay.
Absolutely. The port can support that. The rail infrastructure can run over that.
26 megawatt plant.
No, that's phase 1.
Phase one is to maintain what you got.
No, phase one is to restore what we have to service.
Okay.
Okay,
that's all.
Resolve the steam contract issue and move forward. You began that by asking the question, what can you do? The answer to your question is, I don't know. That's why I have to rely on your expertise.
Well, it seems to me that you need a meeting with OMH. Maybe we can help there.
Okay, I'll do anything.
Is that the help you need?
We can start there, certainly.
You got two attorneys talking and you're lost.
Anything we can do to facilitate any conversations would most definitely work.
Question I was in City Council, it's the same presentation I heard three and a half years ago. What has happened in that 3 years? So, I mean, is it just a stalemate? Has it nothing, any technology for you that's made a change also? Or is this just...
We've continued to explore. We've gotten to the point where we know exactly what needs to be done, how long it's going to take, what it's going to cost, which technology we're going to use. We know all of the work we could have possibly done on the front end to prepare for them to say yes has been done. That's what we've done since 2007.
Yeah.
Okay? At the same time, we've been trying to engage OMH or anyone else in Albany on multiple fronts.
So on the local front, you're having that support, but on the state side, it's a stalemate.
The city has been outstanding in its support for our efforts. It has been fabulous. We have not appealed to OBPA. We have...
You're doing a good job today.
What's that?
You're doing a very good job.
Thank you. I did this presentation to the county. When was that? About a year and a half ago? A year ago or something like that? Okay. And the outcome of that meeting when I walked out the door was my impression was that the county was going to try and intervene in Albany. I don't know what steps were taken, but the outcome has been no. Okay? And the only thing I know, I'll get there, I promise. The only thing I can say is a grassroots effort. That's where we are right now. I need a no or a yes. That's okay. I'll take either one. I just need to know. Otherwise, a lot of lawyers are going to make a lot of money. Well, nobody wins.
The future of a lot of people is being impacted right now.
I hear you.
Now, one of the things that you mentioned, I just wanted to talk about just a little bit, because I've been here since 92, so not all about the surplus property of the state. And I know how it was supposed to be handed out through the system that they had set up in MH. But one of the things is as far as property, to put this so-called chip plant or whatever, getting the materials ready to burn, another 150 yards, you have 27 acres of prime land for a heavy industrial site, which has a rail line running right to it, which could be extended again back into the boiler house, because the line runs right by your plant.
It would have to come over or under Route 37.
One or the other. But I would say it would come across like it used to. But I'm saying we have property to help us. So, I mean, if it's a big hurdle that OHM doesn't want that site right out in front of their institution, I can understand. So I'm just letting you know we have property that's available for you with water and sewer and everything. We have actually 60-some acres, just half a mile away. So we can do it. Thank you.
Sir.
Here's two questions. You want to restructure with the state to take the burden off you, but you also want to unlock the plant so you can get into the electrical generation. Is the plant the right size to do that, or do you have to make it bigger?
No, it's the right size to do that. Sure.
The other thing is, if you did close down, say you have to pull the plug and file bankruptcy, and the state has no facilities to supply steam to that unit, unless they get the trailer unit to start it, which is going to cost them a lot of money. And how long would it take them to fire up and redo what they've undone, and that is put their own boiler system back in?
I have no way to answer how long it would take them to restore their system. I can tell you that a trailer-mounted boiler can be here in less than 24 hours.
Right. Well, that has happened.
But at a cost.
Certainly at a cost.
At a rental cost is going to be probably...
And who's responsible for the cost? Who knows? Where does the fuel come from? Is it gas? Is it oil? Where does the water come from? There's a whole lot of infrastructure that would need to be done to support that. And ultimately that transition is something we would need to work out with the state.
And I think what Fred is worried about, most of the people here are worried about, the state never seems very fast even talking. They never get it done on time, the place is frozen. One winter. They just don't move.
I'm going to come across. Yes, ma'am.
I'm sorry. Can the Public Service Commission compel you to complete the 9 years of this contract?
I don't know the answer to that question.
I would think you should find out.
There's no way to find out the answer to that in theory. It has to be done in practice.
No advisories.
And we're not ready to make that decision yet. 1 second, sir. Yes, sir.
I got one question. I'm the local sector chief at Ogdensburg Correctional Jail that's supposed to close. And the main issues with their closure, the governor's issues, is this plant and how we're going to provide heat facility. The local unions at that correctional facility met with Senator Albertine's chief of staff in Watertown last week, Friday, I believe it was. He's informed us that he's met with both Alliance, the Empire State Development Committee, the city planner, and Mr. Valle on this issue, and it is headed on its way to the governor. I was wondering if OMH was involved in those discussions, and or if you would elaborate and give us a little insight on what occurred in the meeting.
Yes, we met with them. Yes, with the city and Empire State Development. No, OMH was not present. And beyond that, I know of nothing of what you just spoke. I have gotten no feedback from the senator's office beyond that meeting. I do know that they were receptive to the information and seemed to understand the issues at hand. But as far as, have you gotten any feedback, Art, and incremental progress? Has the senator told you?
I had a 30-second conversation out. You will? Yeah. Last week, the senator and the indication was that there were some discussions going on that haven't involved you, but they were continuing to work on that. And I think what's perplexing to everybody is to see that what has occurred is that there's this assumption that you would go away, so they budgeted $9.4 million and in order to replace the boilers. And the easier thing would be to simply sit down with you and cut your best deal. And while you're talking about what you want, that's all subject to negotiation. They can come forward and say, oh, that's what you're opening at, but we know what you want, and this is what we think we ought to get from, and they haven't sat down and really done it. Right? And what Senator Albertine is attempting to do is to create this sit-down. And he's been, we've been talking about this and attempting to create the sit-down because neither the city nor Senator Albertine can negotiate this deal. It has to be OMH and you guys that have to negotiate the deal. And if they would sit at the table and negotiate this deal, they'd get it done. If there's a will, it will be, it will be done.
I make a comment to that, and actually I'm going to look at June when I say this because I don't know how to get a lot of things done, but I know June's been involved in a lot of situations, statewide, nationwide, whatever. Maybe June, you can answer it. How would we go about doing it?
We can get it directly to the OMH Commission.
Well, that's has to happen. Somebody's got to show us how to do it, and that's what we need to do.
I think that it's solved because like everybody's saying, you put two attorneys, and it's not a good recipe for negotiation. It's got a few attorneys.
Man's got a red,
Yeah, you don't want to have an attorney. No.
Well, all right, I'll take that back. But the point is, unless the top instruct the attorneys as to what their goals are, nothing is going to happen. And I don't think Jill is pointing it out, and I think she does it correct. They haven't got direction from the top to do anything else.
I agree with you. And it's interesting, and just so everybody knows, I have 3 questions pending, and I am aware of each gentleman.
We're going to allow just 3 more questions.
It's interesting. When you ask 10 different people a question about something as relatively complex as this is, I guarantee you, 99 times out of 100, you're going to get 10 different answers. And then if you ask the same 10 collectively, you will get another answer. Interestingly enough, what I'm hearing today in this room are exactly the conversations we've had, both internally and with the city. Yeah, this is it. You got it. Commissioner? Yes. I'll talk to anyone at any time, anywhere, in any weather. I just need someone to talk to. And I don't need an attorney next to me. I can have 6. I just need someone to talk to that is willing to engage in a conversation, even if that conversation means telling me to go away. That's okay too. It's this limbo that is now having this pooling or ripple effect throughout the entire community. As you've probably seen up until very recently, we haven't done a lot of this in the press. We don't like conducting business in the news media. That's not helping for anyone. You know, when things get done, okay, great, everybody should know. But that's not a forum that we would normally pursue. Lately, I've been responding to inquiries that I get. I haven't been deferring them because the facts are what the facts are. There's no spin to this. There's no polish to this. It is what it is, and a lot of people are affected by it. And I think it's important that the information gets out there. That's why I agreed to do this today, and thank you for the invitation. Okay, the gentleman in the back over to the left.
Just to clarify, if you get the plant up and running, supervised PD of 2019, after that time, then it will more or less cost usage?
No. Let's leave it this way so everyone's clear. Okay? All of those details are subject to negotiation. Alright? There are no cast-in-stone positions that we are taking or have even established at this point in time. So everything and anything will be on the table for discussion when the right people are on the other side of the table. Okay? I think it's important that we leave it that way rather than get mired down into the detail. This is the presentation we prepared for OMH. This is what we're prepared to do. And we would elicit a response. I doubt I would tune this at all if I were to sit here with the Commissioner of OMH today. The facts are what the facts are.
My feeling is that want you to go away, the site center to go away, our impression to go away. That's my better feeling about the state right now.
I don't know, because I haven't gotten any feedback. Certainly haven't gotten that. Sir?
So isn't it true that OMH has requested certain financial information from you?
Yes, sir.
Hasn't that pretty much stopped negotiations earlier in 2009?
They have requested financial information relative to the project, Ag Energy. They have received everything. The next request had to do with affiliate or parent companies, and they're not entitled to that information.
So initially, when they asked you for your particular firm's information, you did provide that.
Absolutely, 100%.
So from that point forward, they asked for the parent company's information, and I agree with you that I don't know why, well, I do know why now they asked for it, so they couldn't delay it. And I agree with you that they didn't need that, and that seemed to be the point that Senator Albertine had informed me and our city that that was it. That was the law, that was it, and we couldn't go any further.
And interestingly enough, the information that comes out that I've seen, because that has made it as far as the papers, is that they have requested financial information about the plant and haven't gotten it. Okay? And that statement is untrue. What they don't say when someone asks, like the senator, is, yeah, we told them we needed to see the financial information on the plant, and they gave us that, and then we asked for more, and they didn't give us that. Okay, so that's the rest of the story. The idea was they needed to get comfortable with the information as we were presenting it. They wanted the backup for it, this story, right, about where the project is today, financially, so that they could develop an argument to present to whomever they have to justify their decision to renegotiate the contract. That's what we provided them.
Well, it's that brick wall where they've asked for that additional financial information.
Well, the players back in the old system got a 4-year contract. General managers generally didn't make it either. The point was that they not only weren't ready, but because they were drafted, the owner said, don't sit them, play them. And by forcing them to play them and knowing they weren't ready, the team reacted as such. Hey, I mean, look, LeBron James is really the only
Correctional facility, by OMH in a couple of years, and we're left with, 600 people out of work.
1 second, I had a follow-up here.
Yes, I just want to go back to the question I had asked you. You stated that those meetings did take place with the senator, and that OMH wasn't there, and you had no idea what I was talking about. The stuff is going to go. Correct. And Art, I believe, said shortly after that the meeting didn't need to take place.
No, wait a minute.
Clarify where the meetings take place with Senator Robert Hine?
No, I'm not sure what feedback you want to do.
You stated that those meetings need to take place.
Oh, need to? I'm sorry.
There's a difference. He's saying that did occur. You're saying they need to.
No, I didn't say that.
Two different things.
The meetings that need to occur, not necessarily more meetings. No. Well, the meetings that need to occur are between the people at OMH and Alliance. Those are the people who need to sit at the table.
So then the Senator is submitting information basically to go to the governor with it.
I think what the Senator is trying to do is get the governor's office to say to the Commissioner of OMH, there's a project here that's worthy of consideration, and really what the project's about is creating power. And OMH...
renewable power.
Yeah, and OMH has something to get out of it because they can get steam out. So if they're willing to sit down and negotiate this, the two people that have to negotiate it are the people who sign the documents, and that's the energy company and OMH.
And this would create this would create how many green jobs? New green jobs for the plant?
I've got it up here. It's 150 permanent positions, about 50. Initial positions, 150 to 200 for construction. And then beyond that, you're talking about an entire infrastructure to ship what amounts to be 300,000. Well, how many tons a day? 800 tons?
300,000 tons a year.
Okay. We're giving me about 1,000 tons a day, all right? A little less than that. If you figure out 1,000 tons, truck holds 50 tons. This is 2 trucks an hour. Okay? 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. How many trucks does that take to have on the road? How many drivers does that employ? How many people in the field to harvest the wood, manage the material supply, coordinate the transportation? How do you stockpile the material? People to operate the fuel yard, to manage the material. The numbers go on and on and on in terms of direct and indirect jobs after construction is done.
And to get the private mindset, the reason why we think that the governor's office should be interested in this is because his interest is in jobs, creating wealth in the economy. And that's what this does. So we're saying if the governor knows that there's all of these jobs at stake here, maybe his message should be to OMH, find a friend and find a way to cut your best deal with this company. Don't budget for $9 million for a new boiler, because that's not going to create all these jobs. So if they had the $9 million and bought the boiler, the travesty of that would be they're going to pay for all of that, yes, and if they could, but then we're going to end up losing all of the economic benefits of a company. Really, it's about creating power and jobs, and the steam is a byproduct. So I think that...
Did the city council put in a resolution in support of Alliance? Is there any resolution that's out there?
I haven't done that at this... No.
Okay.
Well, yeah, there was one more question that this gentleman here.
I'm not going to pretend that Paul until I was first, but basically what I got out of this is we all should probably go and call and write our state representatives and encourage them and have them put the pressure on each of the state to come to the basis of all this.
Well, I
get put out somewhere to get it done.
I think with the size of the audience today, which is far greater than I expected to see here today, and thank you for showing up. Really do appreciate that. But I think there are as many different ideas to solve this problem or to help solve this problem as there are people in this room. And that's what I would ask. Give this some thought and do what you think is right. And if you think I'm all right, if you think this shouldn't happen, by all means, say that too. It's okay. I don't have a problem with that. Because I've been through the numbers. I know what'll work and what won't. And I can engage in any kind of discussion with anyone at any time. And if I turn out to be wrong, great. We all learn something. But doing nothing, continuing to allow this to just go on, is not a solution for this problem. It's not a solution for us or for the community. Sir?
Alliance bound to deal only with National Grid, or are they able to, let's say, negotiate low-cost power in the future should this project go through with places like the OBPA wants to put in industrial park or any other local activity for economic development?
I have a question that I need to follow up. How much time do I have? You're getting close. Give me 2 minutes without a response to that question. The output of this plant is scheduled to be sold into the wholesale market, not to Niagara Mohawk. Okay? The power would flow through an interconnection agreement between the plant and Niagara Mohawk. That is the extent of NIMO's direct involvement. Otherwise, the output would be sold to the marketplace, which is administered by the state. Or to an off-take counterparty that is authorized to purchase wholesale electricity. Okay? That's this plant. Phase 2. OBPA land. An additional, how many megawatts? 50? 150? 250? Depends on how much material we can handle as far as an infrastructure is concerned. On the other side of the road, you're that much closer to the interconnection point. And at that point, what we would look at is what's called an inside the fence project. Or does the city re-explore a municipal electric system? Or does the county reopen the whole AMP concept? I mean, there's a lot of ways to go off of that. Inside the fence would mean a heavy industrial park that's within the physical boundaries of the plant, where the plant can supply electricity and other energy sources, chemicals, whatever it is, through that infrastructure. Okay? But the power never goes beyond that point. Because you can do one or the other, you can't do both. Selling it to the market would serve to depress prices. So phase 2 would kill phase 1. If phase 1 wasn't sold into a contract, right? Selling it to what's called an ESCO, an energy services company, that is formed specifically for the purpose of buying that power locally and delivering it locally. That entity, to my knowledge, does not exist today. Selling it directly to a municipal system or an aggregate of municipal systems is certainly another option. And that will limit the size of phase 2. Last time we looked at the entire AMP proposal at the county level, to my knowledge, the numbers were about 55 megawatts, countywide. So you're not talking about a whole lot of volume there. But certainly we could make it as an attraction, as another piece to attract new heavy industry into our country.
That's what I want.
God bless him, Greg has listened to the speech from me for years, but it makes sense. It's the hub of an heavy industrial park. How do you get those jobs to the North Country? Well, transportation. If you're talking about bulk materials, we've got that. We don't necessarily have high-speed internet, which I can tell you is a huge barrier to new business. We don't have easy people transport in and out of here, as I found out so wonderfully today. Okay? I've been making this drive for 15, 16 years, and it still took me an hour longer than what I anticipated because of snow traffic. So that's a challenge. But beyond that, it makes sense. And this, all these things can be explored. All these things can be looked at. There's good ideas. But our heads in the sand is not going to solve this problem. We need to take it in steps. Any other questions I didn't catch? Yes, ma'am.
Is Alliance or Ag Energy, are you unionized?
We are not.
Do you use union contractors in your construction?
We have in the past, yes, and we will in the future.
Okay.
We're not opposed to using union people. Yes, sir.
Is biomass the most efficient way because is there subsidies involved with a new startup biomass?
There are incentives that are available. Whether or not we'll eventually qualify, I have no idea. It depends on the timing. But biomass is readily available. The bulk of the costs for energy-related projects are associated with transportation. So the closer you can source your supply, the cheaper your material. Any other questions, sir?
So sure, have you made good with Seymour staff?
No.
As far as that?
No, that's still in dispute, and it's a litigation issue.
You served with a termination of service?
There is a termination of service filed with the Public Service Commission, yes.
And
again, if you've read that document, you know it's a matter of litigation, so I'm reluctant to go further with it. But yes, that's still an outstanding dispute. Okay. If there are no other questions, I mean, there's a ton of information we didn't get through. But it has been about an hour and 15 minutes, I guess.
So on behalf of the Bridge Report Authority, I want to thank you for making this presentation. This affects your family.
Anytime. Anytime, any questions. I do have, as I mentioned at the outset, a 2-page project summary document. So if you can let Wade or his people know that you're interested in that information, I'd be happy to share it with you. You've seen that summary doc. You know what I'm talking about. I think you've gotten a copy of that as well. I have no problem getting that information out. It briefly gives you the history and where we want to go and move forward. Okay? So just let me know.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
What we're going to do, folks, we're going to continue on. I want to kind of move our agenda around for correction officers here. Won't have to stay through the next presentation unless you want to. You're more than welcome to.
Riveting.
We're going to hold up for a minute. I'll have the executive director take the resolution that we're going to pass for the Ogdensburg Correction Facility. So, Wade, have you got that ready? We'll take it out of... Sure, we'll take it out of order. That works.
All right. Thanks, folks. All right. You guys have a great day.
Me too. Good luck.
Thanks.
Yeah, make it just with the funder. There we go. Folks, it's on page 13 of your packet. It's agenda item A1. Approval of a resolution opposing the closure of Ogdensburg Correctional Facility. I'd like to read it into the record. Governor Patterson's proposed 2010-2011 state budget eliminates funding for the medium security Ogdensburg Correctional Facility, which would force the New York State Department of Corrections to close the facility. This medium security prison was welcomed to Ogdensburg in 1982 at a time when other municipalities in New York State did not want a prison. The Ogdensburg Correctional Facility has provided employment to residents of northern New York for the past 28 years, and the closing of the Ogdensburg Correctional Facility will result in the loss of more than 287 jobs at the facility, many held by residents of northern New York, and will result in untold job losses at businesses that support the facility and businesses that serve the employees of the facility. The unemployment rate in St. Lawrence County is one of the highest in New York State's 62 counties. The median income of the residents in St. Lawrence County is one of the lowest of New York State's 62 counties. Given the above statistics, staff recommends the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority Board pass this resolution opposing the closure of the Ogdensburg Correctional Facility. Do I have a motion to approve this resolution?
I'll make a motion.
Mary? I'll second it. Opposed? All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So
Thank you, folks, for coming.
Thank you.
We wish you the best. Thank you. We'll do everything in our power to help you.
Thanks.
We're going to ask for a motion for a brief recess. For people who can get ready to be. You want to just go right into the next one?
Take a recess, whatever you want.
Probably need about 5 minutes to set up for the other presentation. Can we shut that down?
The North Country Freight Rate Study has several different elements. One is kind of a freight and economic development analysis, in which we looked at the profile of the area in terms of the economics as well as the transportation networks, and then also and made various recommendations. And this is sort of a region-wide, so North Country would be defined as 4 counties of St. Lawrence, Franklin, and Jefferson, and Lewis. Then the next component of this was a sort of market analysis and marketing plan. And then the third component is specific to the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority itself, the OBPA market analysis and master plan. The study purpose is to provide background material for the public, technical information for decision makers. We analyzed freight flows and profiled freight systems and profiled the local economy and provide various other information to provide recommendations, a master plan for the Ogdensburg Bridge and Port Authority, and a marketing plan for the North Country. And this is sort of like an economic development type marketing plan. This particular presentation here is to discuss the parts of the report that are now being provided that had not been covered previously in an interim deliverable that we submitted. Within the interim deliverable, there was a transportation system profile, so we looked at all of the different modes and the facilities that are available and assessed the situation with the facilities as well as the flows of transportation, the usage of the facilities, and forecasting future transportation demand as well. And then currently included in the final the final deliverable are the economic analyses for the area, the economic profile, and as well as the marketing, sort of the area economic development marketing suggested initiatives. As well, the earlier deliverable included various parts of the OBPA master plan. The final deliverable is just basically filling out those parts of the master plan that were not included in the earlier report. The first area that I'd like to discuss is the findings of the North Country Economic Assessment. This the first sort of analytical piece of this analysis was a SWOT analysis. So SWOT as an acronym stands for Strengths, Weaknesses, Opportunities, and Threats. And looking at the various sort of situations and the strengths and opportunities and sort of the positives and the weaknesses and the threats would be sort of the negatives. And looking at the first of the SWOT analysis would be the regional strengths. As we sort of looked into the 4-county area, one particular strength is the educational institutions that are located in the North Country. There are 8 colleges and universities in the area. These not only are employers, but also they bring people into the area, and they also have research centers that could be centers of innovation and entrepreneurship for the region and really support the region's economy. Fort Drum is the area's largest employer, and it has grown significantly in recent years, not only in terms of its employment outright, but also it's a location where various military buying offices and procurement offices will be located, and studies have found that physical proximity to military bases does help in terms of likelihood of selling to the military. They also, multimodal freight and trade. This is an aspect that is very, in which OBPA is a sort of a key participant in terms of providing various different modal options to local shippers. The area also has a strong agricultural base, and particularly in dairy, and this is a strength in terms of the whole infrastructure that supports these existing industries is very important. Business costs as well relative to other parts of New York and also across the way in Ontario is another strength of the area. Proximity to Canada. There are a number of different reasons why Canadians would want to locate in the area. Among these are the lower costs in terms of various different cost factors, as well as establish a U.S. presence but be located close to the Canadian base. An important issue. And then there are also natural resources in terms of traditionally there's the mining resources, and then as well the forestry resources are very important. And then there's also you're located in close proximity to a lot of sort of recreational outlets. There are extensive snowmobiling trails and such like located within the North Country. Like there with the Adirondack forest. So these are also important, and also a quality of life issue, very low crime, and sort of strengths in terms of that. In terms of weaknesses, there are some high costs that are fairly high compared to other locations. One of them is energy costs, and on the one hand, New York Power Authority has been talking about maybe extending lower cost power to other areas in the North Country, but for example, the Kraft plant down in Louisville reports that their energy prices there are significantly higher than they are in other parts of the country. New York State has high tax rates. The location is fairly somewhat considered remote, north of the Adirondack forest and along the Canadian border. Limited job opportunities for white-collar employment. The workforce in the North Country is less likely to be college educated than in other parts of New York State, and also the aging workforce. And then there are also limited programs currently and services to foster increased entrepreneurship. Looking at the opportunities, first and foremost, you've got to sort of retain what you have in the traditional industries. It might be nice to bring in feel good to bring in new industries and new areas of business, but you tend to get a lot of your increased employment just from keeping the existing and supporting the existing industries, grain, dairy, and forest products, tourism, metals, paper manufacturing. Another opportunity is to maintain sort of an inventory of appropriate sites for future economic development. There are individual databases and inventories kept amongst the various agencies in the area, but they're not quite sort of coordinated across the North Country. Build industry clusters based upon existing industries and resources. Renewable energy is very important with the sort of growth of biomass, and current timber resources are available, and also the wind resources as well. Very high pockets of wind in the area. metal fabricating and U.S. operations of Canadian firms. And then there are opportunities to foster innovation and entrepreneurship through partnerships with area colleges and universities and business incubators. In terms of threats, we see that a number of the traditional industries within the area have been threatened. The paper industry, the North Country, is not alone in terms of loss of jobs in the paper industry. This is throughout the U.S. And the reasons are, overseas competition. We just don't consume as much paper anymore, recycled paper. The timber industry is forecasted to sort of remain, it's supposed to grow slowly, very slowly. Furniture industry has really, dropped off in the face of foreign competition. Dairy industry, there are some threats here there's a report produced recently that indicated that North Country dairy industry was lagging a little bit in terms of productivity improvements compared to other regions. Although it's obviously still a very important industry and also has a lot of advantages too in terms of proximity to a lot of population centers and a well-developed infrastructure. Demographics too. Basically, as folks, as companies are deciding where to locate, one thing that they consider will be population trends and employment trends for that area. You want to, put your business in a really growing area, and this is an issue. And then sort of looking through area objectives and goals and looking at, in terms of sort of often frequently cited economic development objectives in the area. One objective is to diversify the economy while supporting existing industries, sort of bring in new types of businesses, but still retain what we have. Capitalize on educational institutions, fostering innovation and entrepreneurship. And we've identified a number of particular research centers within local area colleges and universities that could be really very applicable to the helping the economy. Improve infrastructure, lower cost of business, build on the proximity to Canada, optimize benefit from Fort Drum, and expand on the renewable energy business. And then, these objectives will help to meet the goal of attracting growth industries and enhancing regional growth. Just talk about a few of the targeted industries for the region and what are seen as some of the real growth opportunities and their specific transportation and logistics requirements. Obviously, one is the growth of renewable energy and wind power, and there have been quite a number of projects recently built, not only within the North Country, but also close by in Ontario. One issue with the wind power, of course, is these wind turbines are gigantic. The propeller blade's like 130 foot long, typically on one of these things. So, and then that's a real challenge. Ogdensburg, the Port of Ogdensburg has played a very key role in this in terms of these are not things that you can easily transport over the road network. You bring them into we try to keep them on rail or on the marine network and sort of keep them off the road. And then biomass energy. This is the idea is you're going to power plants through basically wood. And one issue with this is that it really takes a lot of this stuff. I mean, by heat content, wood has by volume about 1/5 or to 1/10 per volume of coal, for example. So, you're transporting just a huge quantities of biomass material. So, you require, either it has to be very close to where the biomass is generated. Typically you have like a lumber mill or a paper plant or something like close to where the energy is burnt. But, going forward, very inexpensive transportation will be a real issue for biomass. Another target industry is back office operations. This has been, a kind of an economic development effort of Jefferson County, and they've, had success with the stream moving into the old Woolworths building in Watertown. And they require a high-capacity, reliable telecommunications network. One of the reasons why they moved into the area was because of the bank had supported the building of this fiber optic network, and that was very helpful for that. And then in terms of electronic components and sort of military hardware, these are other target industries. These industries typically will require, the logistics of these industries is supported by the trucking network generally because they're such high-value cargoes. And it's very important to have an effective highway network to support these industries. Some of the marketing initiatives that we're sort of proposing, there are a lot of different separate organizations out there sort of individually supporting economic development. And one possibility is to really try to coordinate a bit and collaborate. And part of this is presenting a coordinated message, sort of a branding message to the media regarding the economic development initiatives, and as well as sort of, what to think of the message regarding economic development in the North Country. And then, another thought is to develop a real sort of coordinated game plan and a database of industrial sites in the area. There are currently, databases of industrial sites, but they haven't been sort of tied together throughout the North Country. And this next one is kind of an important one. We're thinking that these colleges, universities in the area with their, various research centers, these really can be sort of incubating areas for innovative solutions and ideas, and also for entrepreneurship possibilities. So, one possibility could be to sort of brainstorm, sort of bring together folks from the universities and from public sector and the private sector and local area businesses, and sort of see, what we could do with this. Another opportunity is maybe sort of like a Buy North Country campaign. We've seen some consumer products out there where the North Country is actually in the branding of the consumer product, and that helps the North Country and it helps the consumer products as well. It's like a nice brand image. And then also participating in regional organizations that support renewable energy, like the Great Lakes Wind Collaborative and the Great Lakes Commission. The next part of my presentation is going to be in regards to the Port Master Plan, and I'll just sort of mention a few highlights of the Port Master Plan. One of the tasks is to look at market opportunities, and there are a number of market opportunities. Among these, there's been discussions between the OBPA and local dairy farmers in terms of handling inbound bulk grain and fertilizer shipments. 2 ethanol plants recently were built in the port service area. In terms of ethanol, it's not so much shipping the ethanol itself, it's shipping the ethanol plant's byproduct. It's this distiller dried grains, which is often used as feed, like animal feed. And these ethanol plants generate a ton of this stuff. So this is a sort of an important potential cargo area. Also, too, if these biomass projects really take off, this is really significant potential cargo area. There's a St. Lawrence County pallet producer that currently produces pallets kind of for stoves, like household use, but they might produce pallets that will be used sort of for power plants. And, there's also projects planned in Ontario and Quebec, and, also shipping wood chips even over to Europe. Then there are a number of different windmill projects, above and beyond the Wolf Island project, in both the United States and Canada, and so this could be sort of additional project cargo as the port handles different additional wind turbines. And then there are other, talks of other project cargo opportunities in the area, so sort of being able to handle these large over-dimensional cargoes. This is a port cargo forecast. Basically, we're taking the last 5 years average bulk cargo handled at the port, and then sort of applying two different load factors to this. This does not include the project cargo that the port is, that could very well be handling, and also it does not include some of these additional cargo opportunities that I just discussed. Also, as part of this port master plan, one component was a financial plan. Typically, with these port master plans, you'll have the financial plan will discuss basically how these projects that you're proposing in your master plan are going to be funded, and proposing basically looking at what are the funding, what's available for funding, and sort of proposing strategies. And part of this is also to look at the agencies, the authorities' finances, and looking at the OBPA finances. In general, we're seeing positive trends. The graph on top is the operating ratio. Operating ratio is sort of operating expenses divided by operating revenues. And so you see that in 2005, actually, the operating expenses exceeded the operating revenues, but that the trend has generally been positive, and in fact, the revenues exceeded the expenses in fiscal year 2009. But we also noticed that there really aren't huge quantities of funds available generated by OBPA's revenues to fund capital projects. And so basically we're showing here that we have about 1.5 million in fiscal year 2008 that's sort of available to fund capital expenditures, but this is significantly less than the overall needs that are going to be required in the coming years. And we also looked as well at the various sort of financial implications by specific operations. What we found is that none of these operations quite cover all of the investment needs. They will cover their routine operations. So at the end of the year, they have a positive contribution in terms of, many of them have a positive contribution in terms of supporting the expenditures that came up in that year. But in terms of the long-term expenditures, the capital needs, in general, the bridge and the maritime terminal covers some of their investment needs. The railroad and the industrial park come about even. It's like a net zero. They're not a cash drain, but they don't sort of generate cash either. And then the airport actually is a bit of a cash drain. It consumes more than it intended. It brings in. And we also looked at the OBPA marketing budget and sort of analyzed it just a bit. We noticed that when you look at the marketing budget for fiscal year ended March 31st, 2011, about 50% 56%, so over half is allocated for the marine terminal. But we did a benchmark exercise where we looked at, if you take if you take the marketing expenditure as a percentage of revenue generated, so this is like spend a certain amount of money and then generate revenues based upon all this marketing effort that you put in. How does that stack up to other port authorities? For the OBPA here, that's about 3.5%. So, and so we're looking over here at a range of ports across the country, and they're generally coming in a bit higher. And some of them are very high. For example, we've got Cleveland. Port of Cleveland has over 20%. The marketing budget is over 20% of the revenues generated by that port. So I mean it's a little on the lower side. I'll discuss too some of the recommendations that were made within the master plan for the marine terminal. One of these is we noticed that the salt storage, sort of outside storage, could use to be expanded. So that's one of the projects that are deemed as sort of high priority. We have these are all sort of ranked in terms of high, medium, and low priority, and also short term and near term. Another issue that was noticed is that the truck traffic patterns can be a little bit awkward. So one possibility is to stage inbound salt trucks in a different way, or to have a different gate or different configurations, and that's sort of spelled out in the study. And then another important issue is constructing a new truck access road so the trucks don't go straight down Patterson Street. And this is particularly important in regards to all these various port opportunities with this project cargo, these oversized cargoes, because if the port's going to bring these cargoes in from the port onto the road network, it's going to be very difficult, if not impossible, to actually use the existing port access. There's turns in Patterson Street that just make it impossible. And that's another one of the recommendations. And then another is, there's apparently when the ships come up to the berth, they have to unload partially, and then they have to move and continue unloading after they've moved. They have to do that because there's a rocky outcropping, and they just can't fit all the way in, basically. So the removal of that rocky outcropping would really help port operations significantly. And then a number of these other recommendations are sort of a little bit longer term. They deal with sort of the recommendations that are sort of spelled out in the study of how you go about adding additional capacity into the future. In terms of the railroad, the railroad needs to be upgraded and it needs a bit of work. And one very important issue is that the standard amongst Class 1 rail carriers, the big railroads with which the New York and Ogdensburg interchanges and really require and relies upon to receive and deliver traffic, they've switched to a standard rail car weight of 286,000 pounds gross weight. And this has been a real issue for a lot of short lines recently, because if you can't accommodate these new heavier cars, and it doesn't affect every commodity, but it affects some important commodities for the port. You can't accommodate these cars, it really kind of puts you at a disadvantage. Another recommendation is to construct a new rail unloading pit at the port. This would be located closer to the building, so that right now, material comes in, and and is unloaded in a particular area and has to be moved to the building a pretty decent distance, and efficiency would be greatly increased if a new unloading pit were constructed. The OBPA had owned two different locomotives. They were quite old. One was a 1950s one, vintage locomotive, and finally gave up the ghost. It needs to be replaced. Then also, in the southern part of the state, there's Norfolk Southern, which is the other large Class 1, CSX Norfolk Southern, has a system that has worked out with area short lines where they can provide short lines with trackage rights to access between different short lines. And if there's some way that could be, that same system could be sort of implemented with CSX, and the OBPA and the Messina Terminal Railroad, that would be terrific. That would give access to Messina, which would be a nice industrial base to have access to. We also looked at sort of the air cargo issue, and the truth is it's kind of a non-issue. The Cessnas that fly out of Cape Air Cessnas are not going to really have any appreciable air cargo opportunity. And the other issue that we noticed in general with the airport is it didn't seem to fit quite as well in with the rest of the OBPA operations as the other operations. Basically the bridge and the industrial park really kind of support each other because a lot of...
Somebody did tell you it was a gift, right?
Yeah, okay.
It keeps on giving.
Mary, it was written into the legislation.
Because it wasn't a master plan.
Okay, all right. So, I mean, a lot of the tenants in the industrial park are all Canadian, so, I mean, the bridge supports the industrial park, the rail line supports the port, a vital link to the port, and also the port supports the bridge by generating traffic over the bridge and such like. There didn't seem to be real synergies with the airport. City airport.
Yeah, you're trying to use it as a cabin mall. You try to give it back to the city.
We did.
They don't.
No, what? Anyways, well, that's sort of in the studies. It might make more sense for the city. For us. Some other entity to operate it, because, there would seem to be greater synergies because they already provide services to the airport. For a fee. The bridge, it's not like we're recommending something to the bridge, and the entire bridge decking and sidewalks, railings, coatings need to be replaced. Estimated cost is $90 to $95 million. NISDOT has pledged $20 million. There's a $4.8 million application out there to the Upstate Regional Blueprint Fund. $27 million application to basically the federal recovery funds. Unfortunately, the fund has about $1.5 billion in funds available, and there are $57 billion worth of proposals chasing that $1.5 billion. So it's possible, but there's a lot of competition. And as the Tiger application pointed out, there's 689 jobs by Canadian employers that could be they could be threatened if the bridge were to cease operations or were even to have more limited operations. And we also did look at sort of what the financial implications of replacing doing all this work would be, and there's just no way that the OBPA is going to be able to do it on its own, from its own revenues. Even if the port could sort of finance it over 50 years at a 3% rate, it would still be like $2.7 million per year. It would way outstrip what's available.
Still paying for the bridge?
And then finally, I'll just close with, another important issue here is that, we note that, in terms of, earlier we mentioned sort of relative isolation of the North Country. I mean, one reason for that is that it's not served by regions not served by and most of the regions not served by a limited access highway. If you did have a new east-west corridor, this could, lower the cost for local businesses. It would definitely make the port more competitive because you get goods in and out of the port most cheaply. And really improve the competitiveness of the bridge too, because right now if you're coming from Syracuse and you're say going to Montreal, you're pretty much going to go over the Thousand Islands Bridge. Whereas if you had better access, highway access into Ogdensburg, then maybe that decision wouldn't be quite as much tilted towards the Thousand Islands Bridge, because right now you take the highway up the Thousand Islands Bridge and then you take sort of Canadian highway. But definitely would improve the competitive position of the bridge. And that concludes my presentation. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
When did you conclude this? What was your put this all together? When did you finalize some of these facts and things in the last 6 months or so? Or?
Yeah. I mean, we're still doing some final revisions to it, but it's mostly a complete work product. And
I think our economic climate is shifting in a certain way. It's like I'm not sure how much has changed. I guess in some of what you've got here. I guess I don't know if that's true or not, but some has. I think.
Yeah, a lot of the work's been done pretty recently. There are maybe some parts of the report that are using data that's a little older, some of the economic data, but a lot of it has been pretty recent. In terms of the infrastructure profiles, for example, transportation infrastructure, that's changing.
Yeah.
Look at the footprint. Somebody stepped on our table.
Somebody
stepped on our table. Yeah, they're on. Are they yours? Still being feared. They're on. Let there be light.
There be light. We don't have to.
You don't have to pick up that for me, but I appreciate it.
Oh my God, man.
Too bad you're married. I'd chase you.
You might just slow down, you might have to swim. You never know.
I heard he had a lovely wife. I don't think that's the case.
She'll lay it off.
Steve, what's the story on that shirt?
That's pretty fancy schmancy, isn't it?
Patty, you got to put my name on the list. Yeah, you're still on it. Patty? Patty?
Thank you.
Okay.
I really like that because to me that was classy. I think it like jumps out at you. I like it too. I like the color. If it was any darker, it would kind of look gaudy. Yeah. You'd look like you needed a pair of Dickies to go with it. You know what I mean? That looks dressy. Well, maroon color Dickies. I was looking at that too, going, that looks sharp.
Okay, we're going to continue with our meeting.
French cuffs on that?
Max, if you guys want to sign, if you want to, from the camera, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Unless you want to be on camera.
We're going to continue on with our report here in our board meeting. We got letters of communications. There are a couple of relevant letters and communications I'd like to go through with you. In your board packet, first
First and foremost, you'll see the executive summary from our engineer on the 2009 interim inspection report for the bridge. If you have any questions once you look it over, feel free to give us a call. You're more than welcome to take a look at the full inspection report. Back on January 13th of 2010, we submitted a letter thanking Controller DiNapoli, highlighting the local government snapshot with New York's deteriorating bridges. We were listed as one of 3 bridges in the state highlighted in the Controller's report. We definitely appreciate the recognition and the assistance as we proceed forward. One other housekeeping issue from last month. As you know, New York State DOT has pledged additional $1.778 million for the project. That correspondence is included in your packet as well. What's the total? Current project total right now is $21.778 million available for the project.
And that bid's coming on when?
Bid opening is March 3rd.
March 3rd.
At noon. Thank you.
Okay. Comments and presentations from citizens regarding the agenda items? I guess there's nobody here.
It was nice to see all the corrections officers and people from the municipalities here. That was nice.
Yeah, please go back to
August, September.
Oh, yes, we all those minutes, yeah.
Do we have a motion to approve all of the minutes that's listed in this agenda?
Mona, do you recommend them for approval? Yes, I do. I make the motion. No, you make the motion now.
Sam made the motion, Mary seconded.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any questions on the minutes? Have we been all signed?
Yes.
All in favor, signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? So ordered.
I tried.
Okay, we've already done the energy situation there, but I just wanted to speak openly about it. This is the first time I've had any type of idea of what these folks have been trying to do. I guess they've been working for a long time trying to come up with a new way of keeping this facility here or generating powers or whatever. Of course, I have a lot of history with this project because I go back to when it was built. And to answer some of the questions that was asked here earlier, it was built with a project labor agreement, and it was built 100% union at that time, all but some what we call specialty jobs, which are high tech. We allow the contractor or whoever's building, if they need to bring in that type of expertise, it doesn't matter if they're union or non-union for that particular work. So we always have flexibility with that, but I wanted to let you know that project was built 100% union at the time. And it continues on to where we go with a resolution for these folks tonight. If we can do something, maybe I'd like to have an executive session on that particular issue to see if there's anything we can do tonight because of the crucial thing that's happening here with the prisons and Ogdensburg Correctional Facility. I'd like to talk an executive session on that, so I'm going to call for that later, along with another issue that we have a couple other issues too. Is there any comments on this Wilbur Smith report? I can see where we're losing money at the airport.
I was disappointed with its kind of vanilla character. I expected really, especially for a port plan, for it to have had a whole lot more specificity. And I have to tell you, I personally was disappointed with what are the highlights of that. And we got a copy of the 200-page.
Yes. He was supposed to have somebody else here with them.
No, but the point is, we all saw the output, the 200-page report, and then tonight for him to come and give us the highlights without any more specificity, I thought was a huge letdown. I have to be honest. Maybe I'm out of line, maybe I'm out of order. How did you feel about the report?
As I mentioned previously, this report is a year overdue. Wilbur Smith did have personnel change throughout this process.
It's a much stronger report than it was. It's also a report that does a lot of things. Not only is it the North Country Freight Needs Assessment, it's also an OBPA master plan. Some of these elements that will be before the Strategic Planning Committee to see if we want to adopt these into the OBPA's strategic plan. Whether we adopt some or all of them, I don't know. I mean, that'll be a function of the committee and then the board. There is a lot more
talked about a lot of that
specificity. Exactly.
Some of the stuff.
But, and that's fine. I would have felt better if that was just the brainstorming document, because these are the general topics we've discussed and the general way we're headed with some things. And so to have him kind of point out the obvious, or have the report, that's not fair for me to say him, but the report point out the obvious was a letdown.
I share your concern with that.
I think the plus side, Mary, is obviously it's a generality.
Planning document.
It's like, okay, I mean, but at least it gives you, for me, a synopsis of all the things that are interacting and working together. And really, when you have a master plan, whatever, at least it tells us and other people involved that there is a amount of planning and direction where you want the whole thing to go, and what your problems are, and how you plan to solve them. So, I mean, to put a big document.
To me, a master plan is, these are the funds we need, this is how we go get them, this is how we triage what those funds are going to be spent on, because, for example, we definitely need a conveyor because we're definitely going to bring this commodity in. That's all I need. I wanted it to be like you take to the bank, that sort of a working document. And maybe I just had too high of hopes.
Instead of these are the objectives, but you don't have the money to do them, so I felt that too.
These are the objectives, and here's the specificity to get to them. And to do these, here's how you need to triage your expenses or your revenues or apply your revenues. That's all.
Well, you have a boilerplate, and you say this is what I have right now, and somewhere along the line, I mean, I think there's a level of flexibility that you have to deal with some of the issues that we...
Well, I agree.
Yeah, so...
I'm not saying it's worthless. No, it wasn't any more stuff. But it lacks a lot of specificity that I really was looking for. That's all.
Okay. And we're sure it does have its benefits, like I'm saying, in terms of, like, we've used it already to get $70,000 for dredging, for example. So it is...
Excavating.
Yeah.
Questions I had, yeah.
We have shared those concerns with DOT as well.
Where did he come up, though, with maybe I misheard him, but the rock in the port?
What he's talking about, he was a little off base there. What he's talking about the rocky area right near the city boat launch, between the city boat launch and our port, where it shallows up from 25 feet up to 80.
But he's not talking about a rock ledge down in the port.
He used the term, I think, rock outcropping, and
it was excavated.
Not correct. He was a little off on that.
Well, I mean,
the report reads correctly, but the statement here was a little off base.
What made me first think, when I saw that maybe they were talking about something else, and then the more he talked, I said, okay, he's talking about the same thing that's in the report.
You're exactly right, but I think Mary and both of us were here when we talked goes back again with the city, telling them to move the boat launch to a different area where we could dredge that up in there and make it better for the shipping and stuff, and put the boat launch down in the port somewhere where the people would have good access to it and be able to put their boats in, and it'd be a lot better area. And back then it was a grain elevator area. We had talked to them about that, and they didn't want to move it. They wanted to continue right there, and they rebuilt that boat launch, and right to this day we still have a problem, even if we had the water to get the nose of the ship up.
Yeah, but isn't this the same problem as the power plant? It's more our problem than their problem, so they don't want to address it. It's more their problem because they're not making any money on power than our problem because we're getting it for free, so I don't want to address it. So, it comes down to sitting at the table and understanding a compromise is exactly that. We both win something, we both lose something.
But I did hear one thing, and I think all of us have said it, and we've said it here, and I think I've said it to staff. I've talked to staff prior to you folks, and then I'll still talk about it. There's somehow, some way,
must have to have some type of relationship with the growth of Fort Trump. It's no doubt in my mind. And I can't say enough about it. I realize it's, when your hands are tied, how do we get in there? What do we do? Somehow, someday, some way, we got to get our port tied to Fort Trump. I'll be
whether it's or technology, there's got to be a way.
Or energy support,
it's eventually going to come. And
but I think we have to find that. Yep. They're not going to come to our door and say, "What can you do for us?" That's to say, "Hey, we have this, and we'd like to propose to use it."
So anyway,
you want to comment on past efforts with Trump? I mean, we tried it a couple of years ago, but you're right. I mean, we need to try it again.
But I mean, even more than that, it's not just, "Hey, we're here, you can use this." I think Fred has made the next step, which is we have to offer them something that they haven't thought about, that nobody else can offer them. You know what I mean? We have to come, and I'm not saying we have to think of something. No, I mean something that
you have to keep being creative to get at the view of the vision. Is what I'm trying to say. Now look, I'm not saying you're not going to. I'm not saying we don't. I'm just talking. Okay. I'm a guy who likes to look down that tunnel. And do we need to have Clarkson help us? Do St. Lawrence help us? Do we use SUNY to help us? What do we do? Have a general meeting with these people. Break bread with these people. Our education department. How do we get our little piece of something with Fort Trump? Because they're growing and growing and growing. And I'm saying this to, the press is sitting here and we're live, but the growth is gone that way.
Well, Clarkson provides money for that.
And maybe from a top-down approach where you have the congressman assist us in this.
You know that I've talked to the senators about it. I've talked to the congressman about it. I've talked to our new congressman, but I've talked to all of the folks. I've talked to John McHugh and everybody.
But doesn't that go back to, they can get your foot in the door, but only you can keep your foot in the door, and the only way we're going to keep our foot in the door is to offer them something that doesn't yet exist in any one of our heads that comes along with the services we can offer either by rail or by marine or whatever. I mean, we've got to think of something that we can give them that's tangible.
First, we've got to know actually what they need.
Right.
And then you match the need, how you can best deliver. I would assume right now anything they have that's heavy comes by truck or by plane.
Mm-hmm. Right now it's coming by rail.
Comes by port into some of the southern ports, and it's railed to there. So we've showed them that there's a cost saving. But
for 8 months of the year, 9 months of the year, that heavy equipment could be offloaded right here. And I think you just got to go at them and you show them the facts and figures. I mean, they are the Army, they do waste money. But, if you show them that you can save money, it wouldn't be bad to put that in front of John McHugh now that he's Secretary of the Army. I mean, he's trying to save money right now. They just put in $500 million more into the budget for things that are going to get cut out. And part of what they're going to cut out had to do with Fort Trump. Now it's back in. You got to remember, that is the only active cold weather training facility in the country. Now, whether you like it or not, and I'd rather train if I was in the sun and fun, but quite frankly, we're not in Afghanistan and even Iraq. You're in the mountains, and it does have every other place. And you got to train in that type of environment. You can't.
Well, definitely, we know that base has always been there because of the relationship with South Korea and North Korea. You know what happened to our soldiers in the Korean War.
Yep.
I don't know how many veterans have had frozen feet, frozen hands, and everything else, but we didn't really know what we're up against when it comes to that type of weather. And the only one of us, as you said, Fort Drum was the only one. It was Camp Drum then. My theory is all of us here are willing to work with you folks. We got to come up, and I think some of the reports said that get different people together, get different folks together. Doesn't matter who they are. You just come out and have a jazz session and come up with something. Something more come out of these things.
But it doesn't have to be the traditional, we want to bring your heavy equipment in. That's really my point. We need to think outside the box. If they don't want to bite on that traditional stuff, we got to find a way to get to them on another level, another issue.
Well, I mean, actually, you get something for the airport. Anything from Fort Drum. I mean,
rapid parcel delivery, anything. And but they're on air, but they're on.
And, that brings up a thing. I had UPS do it. I had UPS do a thing to bring all the air in from here and out of Ottawa. Because in Ottawa, UPS is not that big, okay? Prudential over there is bigger than that, or Purelator. Yeah, it's bigger in Canada. They're not bigger than UPS, but they're in Canada.
They're the big ones in Canada.
And we just couldn't find a market to bring in the planes in there. They did a study here. John Scanlon was the labor relations guy, did the study for us. He had it done, and the numbers weren't there. Matter of fact, we Winkton Highway almost lost where we had Potsdam.
So we kind of saw the same thing with FedEx too. FedEx was certainly that market.
No, that's right. They opened up out there.
Exactly.
Okay, well, that's good on the thing, and I'm glad you brought that up. And now we'll go to the staff reports.
In the interest of time, I'm going to dispense with the majority of my report. There are three things I'd like to point out. We're still turning over every rock to see what we can do to get $90 million bridge rehabilitation project fund. Specifically, I've had in addition, one other bridge issue is the security provisions workshop. You'll remember this is one I mentioned. It was a series of 3 meetings held by Transport Canada designed to basically impose new security regulations on the bridge and tunnels. That third meeting is complete, and it looks like March 31st there's going to be some movement on that by the Canadian government. So we'll stay abreast of that and find out exactly what's going on there. And one other thing I want to highlight for the Port of Ogdensburg is I had the opportunity to attend a U.S. Coast Guard Buffalo District informational session on the new grant opportunity that's out there. That's with FEMA and the U.S. Coast Guard. The important thing here is it's 100% funded port security grant opportunity, and we're working with the city of Ogdensburg on this opportunity as well, because there's opportunities there to pay for things like fire trucks, so on and so forth, in addition to our port security wish list.
That it?
Yes.
Is there any questions? If there is something that was missing, make sure you call. Chief Financial Officer, Mark Manshaw. That's a good report, Mark. And we'll go right to operations of economic development, Mr. Reich.
Mine's even shorter than Mark's there. I just wanted to mention we've had a lot of good outreach efforts to grain companies in St. Lawrence County, meeting with local farmers that are interested in buying direct, and cutting out the middleman, trying to save the area dairy farmers money by buying direct, and that's actually being assisted by Cargill, of all people, of all companies. And we've got another meeting coming up with a barge company out of Three Rivers, Quebec, and fertilizer supplier just across the river here to help facilitate that along. We've had an inquiry for Project Cargo, and also had a follow-up meeting with a company from our WIA outreach efforts that's inherent to our port facilities. It's a 2012-2013 project to pursue Project Cargo, i.e. the windmill type projects. Working with a local retail store and 2 area industries that have short-term storage needs. Had an inquiry for loading a vessel next year for 10,000 tons of grain. That was from a meeting that Wade and I had with the company up in Toronto. They're doing pricing on it. Don't know if we'll get it. It's a question of whether it's going to be containers out of Montreal or whether they go back to loading a vessel with bulk materials. Foreign trade zone applications in, and then some marketing initiatives as well.
What about these wood pellets?
We had a company from the southeast that is working with current renewables, exploring exporting to Italy and another area in Europe. The probably going to discover that it's cheaper to do it by containers because it is already prepackaged on pallets than it would be to do it as a break bulk cargo. We could probably compete if it was bulk, but it's not. It's residential wood pellets. But we're still pursuing it. We're trying to get out everything. Most likely that would be the end result. We're even exploring containers. I mean, we're talking shipping lines to load up 100 containers. But then you get into issues of where are the containers coming from, what's the cost of moving the containers from Montreal to here, loading them here versus, so it just compounds the cost. But we are pursuing it every way we can.
John, you and I talked earlier about this, but anyway, too, about I was interested in the Ottawa Initiative Airport coming to visit us. Tell me about it. I mean, I know we didn't have a brief meeting, but obviously they're interested in some things here, which we're trying to protect, I should say. Protect their interest. How would you describe that, too?
We had met a couple of representatives at a outreach event in Ottawa and invited them down. They wanted us to go up there as well, but they wanted to visit both Ogdensburg and Messina. Stopped in here. They got a tour and everything. They might be a little bit concerned about what's going on with the Legionnaire in Plattsburgh, what could happen in Ogdensburg, Messina with the similar type of passenger service. Just extending a hand basically to say they want to collaborate on anything and everything that we're doing, any way we can cooperate together. So we'll be going up there in June and July and checking out their facilities as well. Maybe there's opportunities up there that we could find out. Maybe we'll get a lead from them, that they can't handle, look down on us.
Excellent.
Okay. Steve? Just a couple of things. One of the main focuses is we had mandatory pre-bid contractors meeting. That was last Wednesday, and that involved, because it was mandatory, we kind of have an idea of who's going to be bidding. And it looked like, it's hard to say whether it looked like 6 to 7 main contractors were going to be there. At least I know of 5 of them. I know the reputation for that. And then there were some that I know they just didn't seem sized right, but that isn't for me to say. Maybe they've got the bonding or they're doing some stuff. I didn't ask them that. And then we went through all of the things with, we had representatives from Customs and Border Protection, Canadian Customs, and we went over all the regulations and we documented all that just so that the contractors will know up front. It's already in the specs, but basically to have somebody there to answer some questions. All questions we really appealed a lot. We said that they needed to be sent to our engineers, so there'll be a list out there of questions, and that'll be answered in an event later on. But then we took everyone out field visit. We just, it was about 30 out there, no wind. We kind of hit a bucket there, but we had, we stopped at 4 locations on the bridge and showed them, kind of how it related and if they had questions to ask. So it went quite well there, and there'll be, like I said, there'll be an addenda later on, and we look forward to bid letting will be March 3rd.
Steve, one of my biggest concerns, and it sounds hyper-technical and I apologize for that, on a bid letting this size, is being very careful that each of our bidders meet the bond requirements, the bid bond requirements, and the bonding requirements. I've actually had the experience of having a bid be let, so to speak, and then later found out that the person didn't comply completely with the requirements. Is that something that our engineers, Grimm & Pearson's going to watch out for us for?
Yeah, they are. They will. And then
is that something you keep an eye on? A project this size?
I do, but very something this size, you really probably have to get, real detailed with that. And also the state will need to know. I do believe there's going to be some oversight on the state that, if there was a technicality or a component.
But they've not been caught before.
Sure. Right.
Okay. And I'm just a project this size, we don't need any reasons for us to be slowed down or have any obstacles, that's all.
Well, we'll put a special emphasis on that if they are aware of that.
Qualifications
but because it is so important with all the funding issues.
The proper insurance.
Right.
We're going to need bridge insurance. Not road insurance. You know what I'm saying.
Water.
We got lots of water.
Water insurance, all that.
Just another note too, you see on there that, from what I'm told, there's kind of go ahead for the letting of the Toll Booth relocation project for February 17th. Do that, and then just give you an overview of the activity at the port. It's just been steady. It was pretty heavy in early January, but it's really been a function of the weather, and it's just steady. Sometimes it can get gangbusters just depending on the weather, but only for a day, day and a half. But we've been able to keep up with all the orders, with the outlook there and knowing what's coming up. So that's been going well, and then the grain's been steady too. There's been 5 grain coming in by rail, and we send it up trip. Just to give you an idea of what's going on.
How do you think the salt will end up at the end of the year?
Unless the weather changes, I see a lot remaining. I think more.
They're not going to take it for off-site and put it in their salt storage? No.
No, North American, just from what I know, they don't have the commitments, and even those commitments that you have in a heavy, say you have a rough March,
right?
Unless they get other clients, I can see that being there, and I just see that, I think American Rock Salt might have the best handle on that, but they've got the state contract.
Right.
So,
Mark, can you put together a carryover, kind of a first glance carryover estimate for us for March? Sure. What we expect based on the end of the year? Yeah. Based on our best guess, please.
Steve's in it?
Yes.
Thank you, Steve.
Then we'll back up to the Chief Financial Officer, Mark Nashua. You want to give a report? Yes. I called for you, but you didn't have. You looked for you, I couldn't find you.
The budget for the current year is still being waited on, and I think I reported last month, if I'm really right, Victor was asking for Wade's contact information, so I really got the impression that was going to be forth shortly, but that was a good 4 or 5 weeks ago, so I guess I read them wrong there. There's been no questions or anything, so it's just sitting on somebody's desk, I suppose. Obviously, for 2011, we won't be seeing that anytime soon. I guess one of the big things coming up soon for next month's meeting would be the April insurance renewals. That's a good chunk of them, except for the bridge.
What do you expect on that, Mark? Do you have any idea? Have you come
I sat down with Joe last month, and he thinks it's still a pretty soft market, flat, and I know we budgeted a 5% increase. He seems to think that'll more than cover us. So I think
without using it, can you say in here premiums charges should remain about the same? 5% is our buffer, or do you think we'll be using it?
Yeah, that's for workers' comp.
Oh, okay.
This would be for our general liability and our auto and stuff. So that'll be within budget. And this workers' comp, those rates did go up across the board for the most part, but our specific experience modification went down pretty drastically. So, and that was a different meeting I had with Veronica from State Insurance Fund. So we shouldn't see a huge increase or a decrease there. And we'll find that out next month also. You'll look on page 13, maybe? 12, 11, 10. Probably for the first time in quite a while, you'll see that the actual is actually worse than the budget by about $37,000. That's strictly a timing thing with the port operations. And something I budgeted to come in for income for September, October, November materialized in December. So that'll swing the other way next month. So nothing to be alarmed about there.
I'll get back to, are we even close to where we're going to take and put our insurance and stuff out there again?
I don't believe so.
What's the requirements on that? Isn't there a state requirement now that there'll be 2 or 3, maybe 4 or 3, 4?
I think we even kind of set a policy at that time. Didn't we?
I think
not that I know of, but I can look, because it is time to start looking at it. So I can see if there's a requirement. And remember that when we're up. And I know what they do, and the guys at the Watertown Forest, is they go to the markets that know they handle our business.
See, we've had that discussion before. Once we sign with them, then they lock everybody else out of the market. We've had this discussion before. Right? Once we sign.
I'm just wondering, we have a requirement to bid on some of this stuff. I don't want to get caught.
I think like accounting and...
I don't want to get caught in that thing again where we didn't go out for bid.
No, I don't think we will, but I will make sure there's something out there. For professional services accounting, there are those requirements. Utilities, insurance, if you want, those are two different things, but I'm not aware of any regulations for those.
It was accounting that we we said, how about every so many years we give them a learning curve and experience?
Every 5 years, yeah. Did you also want to mention about the retirement plan, too? Is there one thing that has to... Or do you want to hold that until March? Oh, yes, the retirement plan needs to go up a bit shortly. Our investment advisor that you put over here a couple of months ago. That's for our 457B plan, and that's the employees' money, I guess, if you will, not so much ours. But there's another example of what
it's still administered through us, right?
Yes.
So we do have a
so we do have obligation to go out there
or
pick it up a bit. Yes, an employer, a plan sponsor. Yeah.
Is there anything else, Mark?
I believe we've done all of the...
We have the committee reports. Mary?
The Facilities Committee met this afternoon at 2 o'clock before the meeting started for the board. In our discussions, we have asked Wade to put 7 agenda items on for tonight's meeting. One of them had already previously been discussed, and that was the National Grid moving the line underground. We received confirmation that maintenance costs would be handled by NIMO. We also have a marine terminal security project, which we wanted to pass by the board so that we can stay within the budgeted amount that we wanted to spend. We're going to be purchasing, or there's a resolution to purchase a new Bobcat skid steer loader. Steve convinced the committee that it would be useful 12 months of the year and how many other man hours it would save us. And as for the last 4 agenda items of change orders, those are to complete the change orders for the actual contract prices for the international airport job. And those are housekeeping issues that were determined or discovered, so to speak, when the resolutions were matched up with the invoicing. So, pretty plain vanilla tonight.
Okay. And they save money, we don't get the money.
Finance Committee?
Yeah.
They send me abstracts every month, and there was nothing exceptionally notable. And if I do have any questions, I just call Mark or Pat.
All right. Unfinished business? Events and activities? March 2nd. Is everybody all right with that date? Do you want?
I won't be present.
Is it a Tuesday? Tuesday, yep.
When will you be back?
Tuesday.
I will be back.
Okay, so you'll be gone on the whole month. Okay. Okay. So the second is, if you want to move it, we can move it. I don't, because this is the 10th. Talking 2 weeks. Less than 2 weeks, ain't you?
I'll move it to...
Our problem is if we move it to the second Tuesday in March, then we lose Frank.
We'll do a Wednesday then.
Wednesday the 10th? Wednesday would be good for me.
Is that the thing? Frank, Wednesday all right with you?
Not on vacation. Looks good.
So why don't we move March 2nd to the 10th, which is a Wednesday?
What time do we want to start each of our meetings if we need extra meetings?
Same as we did today?
You want to do a 3 o'clock board meeting instead of 4 o'clock?
That's fine with me. That'll work.
Do you foresee any other meetings you're going to need us to have? To be able to facilitate or anything right now? Okay. Okay. You'll call us and let us know or email us?
Kind of tentatively scheduled the facilities at 2 o'clock, and as the agenda develops.
Do you want us to mark ourselves for 2 o'clock?
I really would prefer that.
For the facility.
For the facilities at 2.
The regular meeting will start at 3. That's good.
Board meeting.
Right.
And if there's not anything on the facilities...
Then we just go back to 3.
Cancel it or move
Just let us know by email or something.
Yeah. The facilities we may, you may want to just an update on where it is. If we're going to do it following the second was before the bids would be let, so.
Okay, this works better.
This is a better fit, yeah.
Yeah, this is a better fit, but maybe we won't have enough information to bring to you, but.
Would you think, I'm just kind of jumping ahead, if we had a facilities meeting before the bid, would that make anything for any value whatsoever? Okay, so we can say everything's all said and done.
Well, we're not going to have anybody, our engineers aren't going to recommend approval of any bid at that point in time, but we'll know what the results are. And
That's something we would want to do that, but it would
let's leave ourselves available.
Yeah, you'll have a big picture, but you won't have.
Right.
Yeah, and
or the recommendation.
Or maybe there is some issue with any bid that we.
Good point. Thanks, Steve.
Yeah. Before we do these,
You want to have a meeting on this issue first before we get into that resolution.
Well, there is a need for executive session
On that issue, two issues. So do you want to do that now, or do you want to do the agendas?
Either or.
We have the resolution drafted.
Oh, I have something here. Well, let's go ahead and approve the rest of the resolutions then.
Believe it or not, once we actually get to the agenda, we do have a fairly light one this evening. But first item, well, actually the second item, page 30 of our packet, is the purchase of a Bobcat skid steer. Agenda item A2. This is from the Virgin Curtis. Price is $28,712. Details were discussed at the facilities committee meeting. We do have the $45,000 amount in the budget, and this is, in fact, a BART compliant piece of equipment.
Other questions?
the question is, Steve, we talked about facilities meeting, we had options that would go with it, could go with it?
Yeah, we do have.
We could buy them.
I've got in that price, there's a sweeper, there's a snow blower, and the bucket comes with it. So there's two other.
Oh, those came with it then, Bryce?
Yes.
Oh, that's excellent.
Then we're talking about the backhoe after that.
Yeah, you can come down with it and blow the track.
There we go.
Well, they're the sweeper.
Sure. Okay. Yeah, maybe you can come down and run it.
There are additional ones that we can
Right,
purchase.
okay. I didn't realize those were already included in that. Okay.
Motion's in order to approve the resolution.
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? I'll second. John, second. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Something in agreement with This is for Carol Griffith and Harold Lambert here within the Bridge Administration Building. The lease is up February 28th of this month. This is a supplemental lease agreement at the rate you see for 182 square feet of space here at the Bridge Administration Building. That expires February 28th, 2011. We have a motion. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Okay. Agenda item A4 is a supplemental agreement with Christopher Connell at the rate you see before you. Lease expires presently February 28th, 2010. This is for 207 square feet at the rate you see before you. Period of lease March 1st, 2010 through February 28th, 2011.
This is you. Council.
I think that these small spaces are essentially one office.
Yes, one office.
Do we have a motion? I'll make a motion. Stan? Do we have a second?
I'll second.
I'll second it. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Unanimous. Now, these are 3 change orders.
4 of them in a row.
There's actually 4. These 4 change orders are all similar in nature. What they are is project decreases. They serve the purpose of truing up the project estimate to, aligns the estimate with actual, sorry. There's 4 of them here before you, 3 associated with the transient hangar project and 1 associated with the hangar demolition that basically wraps up the project. The first one, item B1, is a change order with Danco Construction. It's a reduction of $4,142 on the transient hangar project.
And for the record, would you explain about the monies, where the monies go, what happens here?
Certainly. This particular project is not our typical one. Our typical project is funded 95% FAA, 2.5% New York State DOT, 2.5% OBPA. When these change orders come through, what you see is the OBPA's portion at the end of the day would be 2.5% of this amount that you see here. This one is funded a little bit different. This was a 90-10 project, strictly with the New York State DOT. There was no FAA involved.
So the money goes where? The remaining money?
So it goes back to, in this case, it goes back to.
Okay. If we don't spend it, we didn't spend it.
Right.
Good. Do we have a motion?
I'll make the motion.
Do we have a second? Steve? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Item B2 is similar in nature, similar project, transient hangar project. This one is with S&L Electric. Decrease on this particular item was $15,266.30. Again, funded 90% New York State DOT, 10% OBPA.
You find these decreases unusual?
Yes, they are. Typically, we would know about these sooner. This was an item that was discovered by our accounting department, and the issue has been addressed with the CNS engineers.
Yeah, we're waiting for that question.
Good question.
Okay.
And everything was done that needed to be done.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I've gone over that a couple times, but I mean, that's what's...
Just kept hanging fire.
Some of their allowances, and so what it is we put in what we thought it would cost, and what happens is they keep an eye on it, and they don't go over on that. So what they can't put in for more than what they, what they actually spent. So that's how some of that comes.
I mean, there's a spec that you have to follow. Particularly, you can't go up above it. You can't go below. I mean, you know what?
And Fred knows, Mary knows. When I first got here, they made it known how they felt about change orders. So, right? Fred?
What change orders?
So straight out,
and we find a lot of decrease. Well, those are the kind it's more paperwork.
Yeah,
they're more welcome.
Well, I'm just saying, I'll just take the lighting here, whatever, and you say, okay, we got money left over. We should have put a better lighting system. I'm just using an example. But we didn't. None of that's involved here at all. But
we've always come to you with those. If we want to do some improvements, we just go and say, go ahead and do it, and we'll talk about it later.
Yeah.
We kind of usually with that kind of extra money or anything like that. You've got to.
And usually we involve at that point in time somebody like a CNS engineers and says,
explain the reason.
we got an extra 20. Where would it be well spent? They come up with a septic system or...
It's a nice problem.
Yeah.
To not have to spend money.
Because they get the money back if they don't spend it.
But the point usually is that they've allocated that money for the project, so they've already considered it an expense. So the fact that we were able to get it a little bit, on the economical side, and it's improving, obviously it's got to fall within the parameters of the project. You can't take it, put it on the bridge or something, but...
Okay, motion in order. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Item B3 is the change order with Northern Mechanical, same project, transient hangar project. This is a decrease of $3,530.
Motion.
I'll make the motion.
Second, Mary. Steve seconded it. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Item B4 is a different project. This is a change order, similar mechanism. It is a decrease of $3,275.59. This was on the hangar demolition project that you see there. This was one of those 95, 2.5 projects that we talked about previously.
so actually, that money we're going to get 2.5% of that money back. I don't call for right.
No.
We don't have to spend it that way.
We're not going to get any money back. That's why I'm trying to...
That was our matching fund.
That's why I've been bringing it out here clear to you. So this is...
Our matching funds would have been $4,000. We don't have to spend it because...
But we're going to say 2.5%. Okay.
2.5%.
That's the way to think of it, 2.5% of $3,275.
Yeah. Well, I'll buy some.
Who seconded it? Steve? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. The reason I talked about this is because before we got money back, we were able to use it. This isn't giving money back. This is giving it back.
And not spending your share.
We're not spending our share.
Right.
We're not spending part.
Before, when we did a project out there, we had like some money left over. Am I right, Steve?
Yeah, some of those.
We used it somewhere else.
Yeah, they'd say if we were putting up fencing, we'd go and say, we got this much left over. So we use this
to extend the fence a little further.
Exactly. Now you can't roll between projects.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say.
Somebody sends the check back.
That was a lot of money. And I want to thank our staff people for picking it up.
Yes.
Absolutely. Definitely.
Debbie, thank you.
I give them all the credit.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, I guess the next one is,
All right. Item C1 is approval of a contract award for the Marine Terminal Security Project. This project in total is a $300,000 budget project. What's going on here is there's a general contractor, there's an electrical contractor. General contractor, when the bids were opened on December 16, 2009, you see the results there. Titan on the base bid, alternate 1 and alternate 3 had a total of $111,000 versus Danco's $125,000. As you see there, alternate 1 was for the additional fence replacement, alternate 3 was exit gate work. On the electrical side, the base bid plus alternate 2 was Collins Hammond. If you see a total, you see the corresponding total there. And Wendell DeShare, whom we're working with on this, has performed the due diligence on the bids. Everything appears to be in order at this point, and we have these 2 contracts before us this evening.
And we approved them subject to the approval of the Department of Homeland Security.
Yes, that's correct.
so everybody understand these bids?
And the way they came up with which alternates to take was so that we could stay within our
budget.
Within our budget, yeah?
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons we just
Cut out
have a better handle on our bidding. Some of that we intentionally put those alternates out there so that you could kind of pick and choose, and that way you didn't have to rebid. You could keep those in king order of priority and pick out those items that were more crucial. And if the bids were low enough, you might be able to get all 4, but we weren't able to do it.
So we're going to sacrifice the generator this time around. But at least we have a good number to budget for next time around.
Yes, and there is in our budget, we budgeted, what was it, 14,000 to 15,000 in an allowance?
Yes, the contingency was 15,000.
That isn't, it's not a hard number. There's money that we budgeted that if everything goes according to bid, we don't have any change orders in there that will come under that number.
As I think I mentioned in the Facilities Committee too, the items that fell out of this that aren't in this contract will be submitted under the 100% match fund U.S. Coast Guard FEMA grant program.
We're pursuing that in conjunction with the City of Ogdensburg because it might give them some benefits too under the grant.
Yes, that's correct.
The other thing I'd like to comment is to make sure that this is a Homeland Security project. That's where the money comes from, right?
Yes.
So we should note that. People ask me a lot of times, so it does Homeland Security do anything for us? And this is one of their projects. Okay, with that, we'll have a motion to approve it. Steve, do we have a second?
I'll second.
Sam? All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. All opposed? Passed unanimously.
Good job, Fred.
Thank you.
The last item on the regular business this evening is approval of an agreement and easement with National Grid. This is for, as we discussed last time, this is for placing a section of the line at the port underground. Cost on that is $46,303.45. You'll also recall the question last time was who will perform the maintenance on this section of the line at the port. The question was asked, and the response from National Grid was that it is their responsibility. We will maintain that in the file going forward.
Right. Make sure you do it.
Hey, Brooke. Okay, motion to probably. And we have a second. Con? All in favor? Signify by saying aye. Aye. Those opposed?
Unanimous. Look at that.
Do we do outlet?
Yeah.
We got some added ones here?
We have a need for executive session to discuss certain issues that is possible.
Well, with gentlemen and gentlemen, and they were still alive to say, yeah, I did tell them that.
We need I guess we're done with the report. We're going to need a motion for executive session.
And the purpose being?
Contractual negotiations.
And there will be probably something coming out of that. So if you're going to hang around, that's fine. If not, we'll call you with it.
All right, John, how long do you expect it's going to be?
I can't answer that question. I'm just trying to be fair with you. Whatever comes out of it, the resolution, if it does come out of it, we'll call you if you want to.
Sure, I'll hang around.
That's fine. I just want to let you know. I'm just trying to fix a couple cookies with you.
We have a motion.
I'll make the motion to go to executive session.
We have a second.
I'll second the motion.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? So
we couldn't want to hold those. Nobody will second the motion.
We don't need any more problems. Huh? Yeah. Yeah. And I need you to stay.
What else you need to go do? Yeah?
You're after problem.
Oh, let's get close to 6:30.
That's fine. You can sit right there and